Lighting is extremely important when making these YouTube videos. Equally important is how you mount your lights. Ideally, you want a system to permanently mount your lights so you don't waste your time setting them up and tearing them down. So in this video, we're going to take a look at how I mount some of my lights using the Impact Varipole System. Let's go inside and take a closer look at this mounting solution. Hello and welcome back to Blade Insider, where we talk mostly about knives. Every now and then I break from all things knives and talk about the equipment I use to make these videos. These videos are part of the Creator Series, and in this video we're going to focus on the Impact Varipole System. This Varipole allows you to mount your poles and cross beams in your home without damaging any walls or ceilings, and it is nearly as cost efficient as using a traditional C-stand. But before we get into this video, I'd like you to consider subscribing to this channel. This channel incorporates a couple of my favorite things, which includes knives and the process of making these videos. So if either or both of these subjects interest you, then hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for new content. We put out new videos each and every week. When I started this channel, my background lighting consisted of LED lights in softboxes, and I had no hair light. Now this is a great starter system, and you can get good results from this system. However, it is time consuming to set them up and tear them down each week. Also, there isn't any flexibility to shape the light with the system. My solution was to use a C-stand and boom arm. This system allowed me to mount two LED panels for the background and a hair light for the subject. The pros of this system were that the lights were always mounted in the same position and the intensity of the lights never changed. This created consistency in my videos. But there were several cons to the system as well. First, it took up a lot of space in the middle of my studio. Next, the lights were set too low, and I felt the hair light needed to be higher as well. Also, the boom pole was only 4 feet in length. Ideally, I wanted background lights spread wider and wanted the lighting rig further back in the studio. But if I had done that, the rig would have been in the shot. So I needed a solution to address the problems with the C-stand. After a lot of research, I chose the Impact Varipole System. This system is mostly used for mounting paper backgrounds. And most of the videos I watched use the Varipole system for that purpose. That's why I'm making this video. So those of you with similar problems can see how this system can be used to rig your lighting setup. So let's go into the studio and see how I set up this system to work with my lights. Okay, now we're here in my studio, and this is the problem. This C-stand with the crossbar sits nearly in the middle of the room and takes up a large amount of area. It's hard to get around it when I'm filming, so I hope to take it down and replace it with the Varipole system. I'll mount one pole on this wall, another pole on that wall, and the crossbar along the ceiling. The issue I'm going to have is whether that crossbar is going to fit between the two walls. Now they only have two lengths, a 59-inch and a 78-inch. I purchased one of each, and I believe that leaves me 11 feet 5 inches. When I measured, I had 11 feet 6 inches. So I'm going to be very tight, and you will find out when I do whether or not this crossbar is going to fit. So first, let's take this thing down and we'll get started on the installation of the Varipole system. Now, what knife am I going to use to help me with this project? Well, I picked out the Microtech UTX 85. This has been a real fun knife. Ever since I bought it and reviewed it, I've had a lot of good times with it. So I'm really enjoying this knife. Let's get started taking this down. Now I went ahead and I zip tied everything together and then used these Velcro ties to bind things up. So I liked how this turned out. It's as neat as it can be. It's very functional. I'm glad I got the wires up off the ground, and we're going to try to do that again with the Varipole system. One of the issues I had with this C-stand is that anytime you barely touched it, the whole unit would shake. Also, there's a lot of weight on that end. I was always worried about it tipping over. I've got a lot of sand down on the ground here trying to act as a counterweight, but with the new system, the weight balance should be a lot better, and I shouldn't have to be as concerned with the shaking of the poles. I used command strips to affix these power bricks to my power strip. Turned out to work out well. The C-stand is, I believe, from Newer, and I was impressed with the quality of it. It does have that spring cushion to it. Works out well. Pretty stable unit. The grip arm, again, held up real well. Again, we had a lot of weight. It was fully extended. I didn't do well with the counterbalancing. So for what it did, I'm happy with it. It's just that it was too big, took up too much room. I had to get something else. Now that we got everything disassembled, we're going to go to the boxes, open them up, and try to install this Varipole system. The Impact Varipole System consisted of 6 boxes. Now, this is important. I did not buy the Varipole system listed on B&H's website. That system contains 2 super clamps and U-brackets. That will work, but it's geared more towards paper background rolls rather than a lighting rig. Also, the crossbeam consisted of 2 59-inch poles. I modified my system by purchasing a special product that connects 2 super clamps together and purchasing 1 59-inch pole and 1 78-inch pole. The installation was relatively easy and can be completed with just one person. First, you need to take one of the Varipoles and set them up along the wall. You'll want to use a level to ensure that the pole is straight. Next, you'll need to set up the second pole on the opposite wall. Use a ruler to make sure that the second pole is of equal distance from the baseline as the first pole is. Once you're happy with the spot, unlock the lever, lift it up, and extend the head of the pole. Make sure both ends have the rubber footy. Both ends should be set firmly against the ceiling and floor. Then pull the lever down and lock it in place. You can also use a wood block where the pole meets the ceiling to more evenly distribute the weight. You can buy accessories to connect this Varipole to the frame of a drop ceiling as well. Once the pole is locked into place, it's going to be pretty steady. I was worried that the cross beam pole would not fit in the space between my 2 walls. I had measured 11 feet 6 inches from wall to wall. The poles, as were advertised, were supposed to be 11 feet 5 inches long. Luckily, they just fit. So before you order, measure your room and make sure that these poles will fit in it. The beams
were indented to allow one to be inserted into the other, but there was no locking mechanism to secure the two poles together. I chose the double super clamps instead of the U-brackets because of the weight that will be on the crossbeam. It adds another layer of security, knowing that the two poles that make up the crossbeam will not separate because they are locked firmly in place. But two problems came up during this installation. The first was that these clamps come in one orientation. So one clamp had to be mounted to the inside of the pole and the other had to be mounted to the outside of the pole to allow the clamp holding the crossbeam to be oriented on the same side as the varipole. The other problem was that the clamps use a large lever handle in order to tighten down the clamp. Now there are super clamps that use smaller knobs. With these large handles, you need to factor that in terms of clearance between the walls and ceiling when you're tightening down these handles. The end result was that I could not fit these poles up against the walls as I had originally wanted to do, and I couldn't get it as high to the ceiling as I wanted to either.
Well, we're done with the system, and I'm pretty happy with it. It's freed up a lot of space in the studio. Now, all I need to do is to put the lights back on the pole, and we'll be ready to go. Well, that's the Impact Varipole System, and it's really solved my issues with my background lighting. It takes up no room in the studio. I don't need to set it up and tear it down, and the system itself is very flexible. I can change out the lights or rearrange their position. Finally, it supports both my background lights and my hair light, so it gets an A+ for exceeding my expectations. I really didn't have any problems installing this system. I installed it myself with the help of a level and tape measure. No tools were necessary. The pole installs very securely to the floor and ceiling. I was worried about the crossbeam, but it fit exactly between the two walls. These crossbeams can also be used as extensions for the varipole in high ceiling rooms. They come in two sizes, 59 inches and 78 inches. I bought one of each and they connected to each other without any problems. I spent the extra money and used the double super clamps. I like the system because it locks the crossbar into place and makes it secure. The crossbar itself seems to be able to hold a lot of weight. I think I read somewhere that it can hold up to 55 pounds. However, this may vary on the length of the pole. So is this system overkill? Obviously, the soft boxes don't need a mounting system and is the cheaper option. The C-stand and the boom arm was about $190 with sandbags. The Impact Varipole System was $255 using the double super clamp system. Using U brackets, the total lowers to $222. This system is well worth the extra $30 to $60. So what do you use to mount your lights? Also, do you like these videos in our Creator Series? Leave your thoughts and ideas in the comment section below. And consider subscribing to our channel. We publish new content every week, and we look forward to having you back. And if you got anything out of this video, hit the like button as well. Thanks for watching, and remember to be responsible, be respectful, and be happy. We'll see you next week. Lighting is extremely important when making these YouTube videos. Equally important is how you mount your lights. Ideally, you want a system to permanently mount your lights so you don't waste your time setting them up and tearing them down. Lighting is extremely important when making these YouTube videos. Equally important is how you mount your lights. Ideally, you want a system to permanently mount your lights so you don't waste your time setting them up and tearing them down.